Jack.
Wait, what happened to the tank? Oh my gosh, guys. We just did this whole fight without a tank. What? What is up, everybody, and welcome back to week 3 of our second attempt to push for the 0.1% Mythic Plus title. In the last 2 videos, we kind of spent most of the time gearing up our characters, learning all the dungeon mechanics, and just kind of learning how to play Discipline Priest, because this is my first time actually really playing Disc Priest. And unfortunately, we did not get 4 set last week or the week before, so hopefully in here, week 3, we can finally get 4 set. So without further ado, put the key in, pull timer, and let's go. So last week we risked it all by taking some Mythic track shoulders that were not tier over some champion track tier in hopes that this week we could get a piece of tier out of vault that then we could also use the catalyst to upgrade those Mythic track shoulder pads. So hopefully our vault is kind to us this week. I'm not looking. Okay, I'm looking. Guys, we got it. We got 4 set this week, dude. Oh my god, this is huge. So the gamble did pay off. We already had a headpiece. We already had tier gloves. So getting a Myth track chest piece was just... the WoW gods were listening to us that day. So immediately afterwards, we went to the catalyst to turn our Myth track shoulders into Myth track tier shoulders. Finally, giving us 4 set on week 3. And I know all of you know how huge this is, so we're pretty excited. So we're going to be starting off the week with an item level of 659 and a Mythic Plus score of 2623. First key we're jumping in today is going to be a plus 11 Rookery. We already have 2 deaths, we've killed the first boss, we're jumped down, and now we're moving on to this hallway here. And this pull can sometimes be a little bit tricky because you do have the tight quarters and then you have all the AoE and obviously the big suck that's going out. And moving as a Void Weaver Discipline Priest is just sometimes very difficult to do while you're moving and healing. So there's a lot of damage going out, but with Void Wraith out, with Mind Blast out, we're able to keep the group up. But as soon as they drop off and I don't have Void Blast anymore, our healing significantly goes down. I take a big hit and then I just take another one and immediately die. I didn't anticipate immediately taking a large chunk of damage right after the first one, so I could have used some defensives there. I didn't, but you know, that's just the way it goes sometimes. And unfortunately, because I died, I ran back in. Now we're just pretty much losing everybody because they don't have a healer, and it's pretty much my fault there. And unfortunately, I run back in and then end up dying again. So complete, total group wipe, and we're up to 11 deaths from the 2 that we had started with. And the key is still very timeable, so we are just going to wipe it up, reset, and then just continue on. So we end up making it to the last boss with 7 minutes, 30 seconds left on the clock. Still plenty of time, tons of time to time this. This boss does take quite a bit of time than your average boss, but we're still fine. And usually any issues that you're going to have on this boss is due to positioning. And so what happened here is we ended up losing the monk. He was way too far away for me to be able to heal him. I can only dispel 1 person at a time as well, so I opted into dispelling myself, but we did end up losing the monk. I try to stay in the middle here, that way I can heal the far left and far right, but he was just a little too far out of range. He probably should have been in a little bit more so I could have healed him without any issues. But unfortunately, we don't have any battle reses, so we just opt into resetting. So we're all just gonna die here and just try and redo the boss with a full team. So we make the run back and we're gonna engage him around the 5-minute mark. And as soon as we run in, I don't know if the tank didn't have any defenses up or what, but he takes an initial big hit and then he doesn't have anything up for the tank buster that comes out. We do have a battle res up at this point, so we do get him up. Unfortunately though, the monk is going to take a hit and he is now going to go down, leaving us in the same exact scenario that we started in initially. Tank dies again, and so we're just going to call it a wipe, and we're just going to try again. Now, wiping with 4 minutes left, guys, I just don't even know if this is possible at this point. We still have the run back. We're probably going to engage him at the 3-minute mark if we're lucky. This might be a brick. So we do make the run back. We do engage the boss at the 3-minute and 10 seconds mark. This is going to be tight. Like, if we somehow pull this out of the bag here, it's going to be a really tight key. I did also make a comment to kind of just stand a little bit closer to the middle area. That way I can heal everybody else. So we're all not stacked in the middle, but everyone is kind of closer into the boss. And with the first dots going out, I usually, if I get the dot on me, I usually dispel myself. Align does have a dispel for himself as well, so that makes it super easy. And with the second round of dispels going out, we can immediately dispel the warrior. And then I'm just going to move more towards the side that the mage is on. That way, when I do have my dispel, I'm ready to dispel him immediately, get that off of him. Everybody saved their big cooldowns for the first break. We don't have less though, but I PI'd the mage. They got a really good single target, so hopefully we can get a lot of damage in for this very first shield break. And we do. We end up getting him down to 58% on the very first shield break, which is really good. I mean, it's not terrible. Could be better, but that's a very solid first push, especially without having Lust with us. With everything still going smooth, we get the second shield break with 1 minute and 35 seconds left. I feel like if we don't kill him here, I don't think we're gonna make this key, but I don't think we have the DPS to kill him in this spot. We're definitely gonna get another shield break, especially now that a lot of people have used their cooldowns for the first time, so we're not gonna have as good as damage as we did. And I don't have PI either. So we do end up taking him down to 17% health, but now we gotta break the shield and try again. With only 1 minute left. So now the final shield break happens with 30 seconds left, and I thought we were done for, but we are actually gonna end up timing this key, which is insane. Somehow with 22 deaths, it is still possible to time a key. And that is going to give us a massive 32 points, bringing us up to 2638. And now we're jumping into our very first plus 12 key ever. It's going to be Dark Flame. This is one of the easier keys. So if we're going to time this, or if we're going to time at 12, it's going to be Dark Flame first. And I don't know if it's just a me thing or if it's a healer thing, but anytime I do a key of a level that's like, it's the highest I've done so far. I haven't done any other key. So in this case, this is the first time I'm ever doing a 12. Like, I get super nervous. Like, my hands get sweaty, and you know, I'm just nervous because if people end up dying, ultimately at the end of the day, it's gonna be my fault. As long as, you know, they're not standing in dumb stuff. I mean, and no offense to the DPS players, but a DPS player could show up to a key and just do like okay damage, not like amazing, but also, you know, you're not throwing and still do okay. But if as a healer, you have to come with your A game every single time. And before anyone gets offended by that statement, guys, remember this is a 12, all right? This is not a 16, this is not a 17. I'm not doing those super high-end keys right now, so it does change as you're, you know, going up in those higher keys. But as of right now, a 12, you can come with average DPS, and you know, you could still time the key. But if you come into a group with just a terrible healer, I'm not gonna lie, at the end of the day, the healer's just not gonna keep people up. People are gonna die, and it's gonna be a lot harder to time that. So we are actually just blasting through this key. We're coming up here in the second boss. We only have 2 deaths so far, and it's been very smooth. And I'm just gonna highlight this boss because I think that this is probably the hardest boss in Dark Flame Cleft, just because the amount of healing that you have to do to keep everybody alive is just incomparable to any other boss in here. And real quick, as a healer, what is the hardest boss for you guys? What class do you play, and then which boss do you find harder than all the other ones out of any of the dungeons this season? And actually DPS players too, do you guys find bosses hard, or do you just, you know, show up, do a bunch of damage, and just keep on pressing W? But anyways, so the reason why this boss is kind of hard, I haven't really figured it out at this point in time, but you do actually want to stand closer to him. That way he doesn't spawn these little wax figures so far apart, and it's easier to get them all. Here I actually get the pickaxe on me, and I try to run through it, and I actually didn't know that these stun you when you step on them. That was the first time I've ever done that. Somehow I didn't die. I don't know. We didn't die. I didn't even use PS on myself, which I probably should have, but somehow, once again, we're alive. But when you're super spread out like this, you do end up spawning those wax figures farther away. The more wax figures you have, the more AoE damage that's going out. So if you can, try and stay as close to the boss as you possibly can to prevent from that happening. Or you just bust out some big heals and just keep everybody alive the entire time while parsing, you know, up to you. So sometimes you have such little healing in between Mind Blast and your Void Wraith. I try to stagger them a little bit. I'll cast Void Wraith first and help keep the team alive, and as it's about to fall off, that's when I save my Mind Blast for. That way I'm not in that complete down period where I just using Smite, which doesn't do that much healing. And the strategy, it worked. You know, we're sitting over 2 million HPS during that boss. It was a little stressful, you know, we did almost die, but we do end up taking him down and not losing a single person. And again, Dark Flame is one of those easier keys, if not the easiest, so we do end up timing it, giving us a huge 45 points, bringing us up to 2663 for our very first plus 12 key of the season. Actually, I think I only timed one plus 12 key last season, so we're pretty much already equal to where we were last season. Next up, we have a plus 12 Priory, and we actually try this key multiple times. So for our first attempt, we actually make it to the second pole, but then the tank gets one shot and the group completely wipes, and that's going to be it for that one. Now our second attempt, we're actually doing it on a plus 13 key, and we make it to the second pole again, get hit with the thunderclap, and then I get shot and I die. And then as I'm running back, the rest of the group kind of falls because, you know, they don't have a healer. And then that's where we call this key. But don't worry guys, we're going back in for a third attempt, but this time we are dropping it down to a plus 12. So this dungeon also started off super weird. We stealthed by this first pack. I don't know why. I feel like you kill this in every single scenario ever. Like, you shouldn't skip this, 3%. And then we do a double pull on the second pull, and there's just so many shooters. Unfortunately, I go down at the same time the druid goes down, and we die. I try and run back and MS the pack. I can't sneak by, so I die again. And then some other people died. So we have to come back and clear this back. So technically this is the second pull. So this would technically be considered the third pull. So hey, we're making progress compared to the last dungeon. And this pull's going all right. And then our tank swiftly gets one shot again, wiping the group and thus ending the key again. But what do you do when you fail the first time and the second time and the third time? That's right, you go again. And you know what they say, fourth time's a charm. Look, we did it. We made it past the second pack. Now this is only an 11, so it's not necessarily a 12, but we do time it and we do get some points out of us, giving it 13 points, bringing us up to a total score of 2696, almost 2700. But yeah, that was pretty much the last 2 hours of my life was doing this. And after that, we do try a 12 Rookery, but unfortunately we are too slow, too many deaths, and we actually don't end up timing this key. But you know, it was a solid attempt. And then after that, we jump into an 11 Theater Pain and barely time that with 23 seconds left, bringing us up to a total score of 2711, finally breaking that 2700. And then we fight our way tooth and nail through a plus 11 Motherload, pretty rough. And unfortunately, right here at the end, we think we're going to make it, but we end up dying. I turn around to see if I could survive running through the Gatling gun, but you can't. At least not with just a power word shield on you. But we do end up timing it, fortunately. Minute 34 left over, giving us 13 points, jumping us up to 27-24. And we do make our way back into a 12 Rookery that went so much smoother than the one that we had before. Only 3 deaths when we timed it, and that's going to give us a huge 31 points, bringing us up to 2755. Alright, so now we're in a plus 12 Theater Pain, and I'm going to tell you guys right now, we don't end up timing this key. But I thought this was super funny. Even with the tank dead, we don't have a battle res, or he doesn't accept it for whatever reason. We actually still end up killing this boss without a tank. I had absolutely no idea that this was even possible. Like, if you don't need a tank to do this fight, what does the tank even do the entire time? I actually don't know. I don't know the tank mechanics for this. I know there's like a frontal, but if you can just do this boss and not even have to worry about a frontal, does that mean like you could technically do this boss and the tank could go DPS and you could just do 4 DPS and 1 healer? I don't know. It might be inefficient as far as going out and swapping between tank and DPS, but still. So again, I just thought this was funny. This is us killing this boss without a tank. And we end up calling the key here, surprisingly, I know, but this is where it ends. We don't end up timing the 12. So next we jump into a plus 12 Mechagon, and it takes us approximately 2 minutes and 36 seconds before this key goes to absolute shit. But don't worry, we'll try the same dungeon again and make it way further, but still end up breaking the key and wasting even more of our time. And not to completely shit on the 2 guys that are dead right now, I did die right before this, and I got a B-res, so I took the B-res. But we did end up losing 2 more. We reset the boss, and then we're like, hey, we have 9 minutes left. We're not timing this, so we just end up calling it there. And finally, for the very last key of the week, we're in a plus 12 floodgate. We're going pretty good. And then this tank does a completely illegal pull. I'm sorry, guys. If you don't have coordination, you do not pull these 3 packs together. You just don't. It is so much healing and so many required stops and kicks. You just don't do this. It's illegal. You don't. And now before somebody comments after the video, well, that's just because you're bad and you just can't do it. This is actually a normal pull. I don't think it's normal. 2, yeah, you can do crazy stuff like this when you're in a coordinated group who knows how to push their buttons. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying you probably shouldn't do it. But that's it, guys. That's gonna be our week for week 3. Unfortunately, the last key that we did time was like 20 keys ago. So our final score at the end of week 3 is gonna end at 2758. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far in the video, I appreciate you guys so very much. If you could, do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't, and in the comment section, tell me which class that you are playing this season. All right, my friends, have a good night, and we'll see you in the next one.